Hey everybody, this is Dark Guardsman and we're back with another video. Now this is going to be a quick news update to cover things that have happened in the last month and various things I just haven't really covered in a video because there really wasn't much of a point. So more or less news update, kind of rambling. It's going to be something, so stick along for the ride here. So in news by itself, we now have somewhat of a rules now for the Discord. I've noticed that the channel or the server is starting to grow. We now are up to 53 people online, and I've actually seen that spike all the way up to 70 at some point in time. So I decided, hey, we probably a good time to get some rules out here, so that way when we start disciplining people for certain actions, we can point up to the rules and go, yeah, there's rules up here. So if you haven't been paying attention, they're there. They're pretty straightforward rules. Basically, be nice to each other. It's no hate, no racism, no insults. I actually really don't care on the insult one as long as you keep it where it's not harmful. So if you're making fun of your buddy and your buddy's okay with it, it can slide. But if you're being really bad about it, really negative about it, you're probably going to get moderated at some level. No breaking ULAs, laws, any license agreements, any kind of stuff like that. So no criminal activity, none of that stuff. So don't talk about it and you're okay. Don't bug us about the ETAs. We'll let this slide occasionally because it's not that big of a deal, but don't come in and be like, hey, when are you going to release this? When are you going to release this? When are you going to release this? If you keep that up, more or less you'll be muted for a while and then probably banned or thrown out of the Discord. It's very likely, by the way, we'll ban anybody for anything that isn't completely stupid. So as long as you're not doing criminal activity and you're not being a complete nuisance, you're not going to probably get banned anytime soon. However, we will mute people and temp ban people if needed. If you're looking for support, we're actually okay with whatever you do for support-wise. So if you come in and just ask for help, you're okay. But if you do have a bug, please try to submit it to the GitHub repositories first before asking for help. The reason for this is that as soon as I finish helping you and I solve the problem, I can go close the ticket to confirm that it has been solved, and I can use the ticket to keep track of what's going on. So like if you tell us about a bug and you submit a ticket and you put the crash report in there, but you continue talking to us and we determine like there's more to that bug report, we can append the bug report with that information, then I can solve it later. Or if I solve it right then and there, I can then submit the code and then solve it right then, and you can actually see, and everybody else can see that it's been solved. When on the server, try to speak English. This is primarily an English speaking server. I'm not going to discipline anybody for not speaking English, but if you're speaking like some other language and you're only speaking it to your buddies, you can get your own Discord or you can go to private messages. The reason for this is just it can be confusing for some people. No selling or advertising without permission. Pretty much you're almost never going to get permission for anything that involves money. The reason for this is that we run our own organization here, so it's not in our best interest to let you sell stuff. And advertising is only really okay if you're advertising your own private server, which we're kind of okay with. If you go into the gaming server, we'll let you kind of do whatever you want. If you go down, that's even an exception for that gaming channel. So if you go there and you be like, hey, I have this server, if anybody wants to join, we're cool with this. You'll be allowed to do it as long as that server follows the rules and doesn't break any rules, laws, or etc. And then we don't want you advertising anything else than that, so don't advertise like you give out free promos. Don't be advertising like your own site and stuff like that. Basically, the only reason you're going to be allowed to advertise is if you keep it within the topic. So if you're like saying, hey, I have a server, hey, I need a group to play with gaming, hey, I'm streaming right now, yeah, I'll let that stuff fly. On the topic of modding rules, as long as I see you're making a mod, I'm going to give you a mod development rule, so you don't have to have it published. But if you have it published, that's the greatest way to get a rule. And if I see your name over here on the Minecraft mod development Discord, if you're in this list and I can confirm that you are the same user as this, I'm going to probably automatically give you a mod rule without you even asking. So you'll probably be tagged. By the way, for those who keep asking how to get other ranks, you generally only get VIP rank if I actually know you in real life to some extent, or I work with you as part of the organization, but you're not a developer. So if you're a mod pack maker or you've paid me at some point or something like that, you end up in the VIP list. So people who ask for that, that's really just there, so I don't have to scroll all the way down the list to find people. So we've covered that. In other news, in addition to this, we now have a new developer working on MFS. So we've got Blue Electric here. He's pretty much going to be running the development for the mod. I will be managing him, so design stuff still comes down to me and stuff like that. But as he goes, I'll probably give him more free reign on the mod. Right at the moment, I'm going to be having him work on the GUIs to fix those. So for those that have been having issues with the GUIs not working perfectly and being unable to get access to all the features and functionality. He's going to be fixing those first, and then he's going to be helping us port over anything we need to. So the first goal is to fix everything, get it all working, add in ICBM support, which is currently missing, fix all the power issues, balance the power issues. I'll probably be working on performance because even though he's can make mods and he has made several mods on his own, I don't know if he's experienced enough to handle dealing with performance corrections. I'll give him the opportunity, but for the moment I'm going to be having him work on GUIs, so that'll get be fixed. And then once we get it all polished and everything else, he'll be helping me port MFS completely over to the Volts Engine abstraction system, and then we'll be porting that to 112 the first opportunity we get. That's the same thing for the ICBM rewrite, which we will be calling ICBM 2. For those who have not paid attention, I did actually ignore this. I did actually rename the ICBM repo to ICBM 2. This was done to just help reduce confusion, and there is some contemplation whether or not we may completely rename it altogether. So ICBM Classic, ICBM 2. I am looking for names right now to rename ICBM. I don't want to completely rename it because at that point it'd be way too confusing, but I'm looking for something we can add to the end of it, like ICBM Reborn or something like that. Our ICBM Missile Commander is the one I'm leaning towards right now because really, with all the remote control systems we have in there, it's turning into a really nice missile command system. So that's been renamed as in news as well. Henneman has finally got some ammo crates going. So this is another thing that has finally been implemented. These are going to behave pretty much like chests. I know a few people have asked us to make them so they only store guns or only store ammo, and they're highly realistic. This is not going to happen. It's a decoration mod is what they're going into. So they're going to be treated as vanilla chests. So as long as they're the same size as the chest, they will have the same inventory space as a chest. This will, of course, change based on the container we end up making, because the plan is, and he's working on this for the 112 version, so this will not probably end up in the 1.7 version at any point in time. I really am sorry about that, but we're gonna have to make some choices of what versions of Minecraft we do support for certain mods, and right now military base decor is only going to be updated for 112. That being said, we may backport at some point if it is deemed necessary. But with the new version, we're going to end up with an enum of container types, and we're going to use the block state system, which will also be further enhanced in 1.13 with the block state system, to implement as many containers as possible using only a single block ID, so you don't have to worry about your block IDs being flooded. It will somewhat increase memory usage, so we may add configs to disable certain chests if you definitely don't want to use them, so that way you're not loading models and you're reducing your footprint on your mod pack. But we'll probably implement a very high, wide range of variety of different textures and visual looks for them. Most of these will probably be done as static models, so you won't have to worry about latency, but we may add options to do them as tethers, once again to reduce the footprint of memory usage, because tethers eat up FPS but do not eat up RAM, so we'll look into that as well. So that's being implemented. With that, we're probably end up implementing gun racks and a few other things later down the road with this mod, and they're probably going to be working on the army mod again as well. For those who are probably watching this asking what about ICBM Classic, I am almost done. I'm pretty confident in the next couple days, assuming I don't get drunk on my birthday here on the 6th, we'll release the mod either this week or the next week, assuming nothing happens. I do have other stuff to do, which is the reason why this is delayed as much as possible. So I was really hoping that we would have been done with this in January, but I got hit by classwork pretty hard, and that has really slowed things down. So there's a task list system that I'm currently working on, which has a ton of work that is required to just keep up with it. So that whenever that finishes, which that is guaranteed going to be done by April, so the latest this mod will be on release is going to be April. But we just finished the multi-blocks for ICBM Classic. There's several videos of me showing how that works. I did spend a huge amount of time optimizing algorithms for it, so a lot of performance problems have been solved with the missiles not flying properly. Min-max heights have been set in there, or at least the 1.7 version has been set. 1.12 I still have to go do it. A lot of configs have been implemented for those who haven't been following with the videos on Twitter. What else has been done? So we do have new textures for grenades, which was another video showing that. We're going to be getting new textures for the carts at some point. Recipes are almost done, so those are going to be implemented here pretty soon. And I'm going to be trying to work on the graphics here probably next week. So there's a few graphic problems that are left to solve that are slowing down release. And for those who are asking why are you waiting for graphics, the chemical and the defibrillation both produce a high amount of graphics in order to indicate where the poison cloud is. So if we don't render the poison cloud to some regard, a player will walk right into it and die without realizing, which is really negative for gameplay aspects. So that has to be solved, and I believe that is about it, because we fixed just about everything else. I even fixed the remote detonator here pretty recently, which wasn't working. I'm probably not going to fix the jammer. It's probably not going to be implemented at any given point in time, and there's still a lot of rewrite stuff that needs to be done, but we'll wait until after beta release for that. So expect to see that in the next month at least released for ICBM Classic. For any other mod that people are going to be asking when is it going to be updated to 112, it's going to happen when it does happen. I have no clue when we're going to get to updating a lot of these. Right now, there's a really big hindrance point with getting Volt's engine properly set up to port between 1.7 and 1.12 and back and forth. We really want to hit that point where we're only writing content for Volt's engine itself and not for Minecraft or Forge, because Minecraft and Forge change underneath us so often that if we end up writing, say, a really complicated system, and ICBM's got a few really complicated systems in the back end that we're really afraid of having to completely rewrite per Minecraft version, especially the extended metadata system that I've been working on for 1.7 to allow us to do thermal cracking on blocks and stuff, which is going to be a really amazing system when it's finished. If we don't implement that properly, if we go to 1.12, then that system may have to be completely removed. There's still a few issues with the radar system and radio system in 1.7 that need to be fixed before we even go to 1.12, so that's another thing that's slowing down ICBM from being updated. Additional to this, I really want to finish the mod packs, so Volts 2 and Volts Classic, which are the two mod packs we're working on, we really want to finish this for 1.7 before we go anywhere with updates for 1.12. So if those ever do get released to full release, you can expect to see us update to 1.12 at that point. And that's about it for the news we've got here. Oh, there is another thing I almost completely forgot to do, which is the reason I was launching the game, but it looks like we're not going to be able to do it because I broke the missile modular system. I have actually been rewriting the missile modular system in the background because there's a few issues with recipes and stuff in ICBM that I had to fix, and it looks like I just infinite looped myself by mistake, which is magical of how we ended up pulling this off. And it looks like, how in the world? Oh yeah, because all the systems feed back into the missile. This is a great example of why I should think about how I code something. But what I did want to show off is that the bucket system, so the thing that does our wooden buckets, cacti buckets, stuff like that, I did implement a new feature here for a client to allow you to filter what can go into the buckets. So say you're making a mod pack and you want to actually restrict the fluid types you can put in there. You can now disable gases, you can now disable liquids, and for those that go in liquids or fluids are the same thing. They're not. Fluid is actually anything that behaves, well, like a fluid. There's actually a better definition for it, but a gas and liquids are both called fluids, and there's a liquid, which is basically, well, a liquid, it's water pretty much. It even tells you here water, lava, anything not a gas. And then steam, air, gas, anything not a liquid for gases. You can disable these two by default. On top of this, you can enable the fluid allow list. Actually, there's actually another check mark for this. Right here. Enable fluid list, which will then allow you to go between either allow list or disallow list. And then in here, you can manually select what fluids you either want to allow to be in the bucket, so you can basically whitelist everything, or you can create a blacklist where you say you want to ban certain types of fluids from being inside the buckets and stuff. Very useful, specifically for the gas can mod, which is what it was made for, because the person we made the gas can mod for at some point just said, you know what, I only want gas in this, I don't want water and lava, so he wanted that restricted. He also wanted to be able to turn off gases for any bucket type, so that way you couldn't stick steam inside of a wooden bucket or stuff like that. So this is now available for the 1.7.10 version. It will be ported to the 1.12 version, and it will be back ported to the 11, 10, 9, and 8 version by request only. So that will happen, and this allows you guys to have a lot of more control over what you can put into the buckets, and it is per material. So as you can see, we have an iron bucket here, which as well, we have of course birch and everything else. I will be working on these configs to make them much easier to use over time, so there will be, very likely, instead of having this one huge config file for all the materials, we'll have individual materials in here, so that way you click the material, and we'll have material categories as well. So instead of being like, I want to change for birch, sapling, and whatever for the bucket types, I can go, okay, I want to change all the wooden buckets to have the same settings. That will be available with other options like override. As in addition to this, we'll probably work on the in-game GUI config system. That way you guys can actually change these settings in-game and have them update in real time, so that way players actively sitting on your server working with the buckets will have and see those results without you having to restart a server. On the same regard of stuff we're also working on, the guidebook system should be coming online here pretty soon. I've been working on that. For those who don't know what I mean by guidebook, it's like any book you pretty much open up in-game to tell you how to play the mod, except this will be treated like a full wiki. Let's actually fix this system really quick so I can show this off. And how we're going to do this is we're just going to break it so that way this doesn't return at all anymore. And I will fix this later because I accidentally infinite loop myself in that regard. Probably somebody's going to install that mod and submit another bug report, unfortunately. So go ahead and hit debug on this. It'll take a few seconds to load, but I want to show off the guidebook of the progress we've made so far because I don't believe I actually made a full video going over everything for that. It was on my list to actually mean to do. While we're waiting for this to load, on the regard of I did mention we'll probably do some work on the army mod. I have a lot of models just sitting around that have been waiting to be implemented. So we have plasma cannons, rail guns, and lasers to start working on a new sentry gun mod. And we have some updated models for some of the older stuff. We have some missile batteries that have been sitting around completely unused. I'll probably do a video on this later. Speaking on the note of videos, I'm going to be starting the tutorial series pretty soon here on how to make mods. And for those who were paying attention to Discord, I will not be working on the how to be a developer series just yet. I'm still writing all the scripts out on that one. That one's going to be dedicated towards towards software development in general and not just mod making. So that one's going to go over a lot more concepts in depth of like how to really go about being a developer, how to handle ethics, how to talk to other developers and work with them, how to decide what libraries to use, how to decide when not to use a library, how to decide what methods to use and stuff like that. It's going to really go into the thought process of being a developer and really hit home on some topics of kind of things that are misconceptions. Like a lot of people believe that you must learn certain languages to be a developer and you must do certain things to be a developer. One great example to point out is people believe you must code all the time to be a developer. The reality is there are some people out there that have made great careers that have only ever coded on the job and have never coded in their personal life, have never made a personal project, never uploaded something to GitHub, and never used a conventional integrated development environment. So there's a lot to being a developer that a lot of people don't really think about, and we'll go on that through with a video series at some point. Don't know when that's going to exactly happen, as I have the scripts right now, but I want to get at least 10 videos into the script set and figure out how to do animations, as we want to animate all these videos, so we'll probably be working on that at some point as well. So I say maybe next year is when that will happen. But the modding tutorials will end up happening pretty soon. How those are going to end up actually working is we'll cover random topics. So they won't be as simple as you see from other developers, where they start you from the beginning of how to set up an environment, how to initialize your mod, how to do that kind of stuff. That stuff is already covered by other developers pretty well. We will make those videos, of course, because I do want to go into detail of things you can get away with. There's a lot of tutorial series that'll go like, hey, you have to use this tool, you have to set your workspace up in this way, you have to put your folders here, and I do want to cover that and basically explain that a lot of the stuff that a lot of mod developers tell you have to do are 100% optional. You can pretty much put your folders anywhere on your computer, for example, but a lot of developers would be like, hey, you have to put it in a certain location. Personally, me, I have a GitHub folder on a hard drive by itself that is dedicated entirely just to downloading repositories. It's a huge folder that I do it this way. This will be the way I more than likely will recommend it in the video, just because it's a good idea to stay consistent, but you can do anything. Like, you could put your stuff in the documents folder, you can put your stuff on a thumb drive. Thumb drive will be slower, of course. You can do whatever you want in regards. You can put stuff even in Dropbox. Things like GitHub are optional as well, although I highly recommend GitHub, but we'll get into a video of that on its own while we wait. We still gotta wait for this to load. But back on the subject of the guidebook. So when this system does get online, it will take a while to get all of the mods up to pace where we actually have in-game content. I will be looking for people to help out with this. I'm not the greatest writer, and I will have to translate these at some point. The ability to translate the pages probably won't be implemented right away, as the honest truth is I have to figure out a way to do this. We haven't exactly determined the best route to do it. The current ideal I have in mind is to create a folder per language and then put all the pages in there that are translated and have them load. And for those who are asking about, well, then how would you handle the page sizes and everything, and how will you make sure that everything fits on one page? The way we're going to handle the pages in the guidebook is by scrolling. So if you got to think of a page more like you would a web page, so you see this is an entire page and you can scroll up and down, that's the same way we're going to actually handle the pages in game as well, and I'll show that off here in a second. Though I don't have scrolling actually implemented, but you'll get the concept. So let's go back here, and we finally got it loaded. This is actually a thing, I really don't know if I actually showed this off or not. I've made so many videos in the last couple weeks. Really easy to forget, especially when you're doing 50 million other things. But we'll go ahead and get the game loaded up. And as soon as we finish showing this off, we'll go ahead and end the video on that point. and I'll come back here and I'll cover a few of these topics individually as well for those who didn't watch this whole video all the way through or skipped around. Okay, here we go. We're loaded up. So how to access the system, and we'll probably make a better hotkey for this, but right now you hit Control tilde. Tilde is the key next to your 1 and next to your tab. So you hit that. This will open up a quick access system. Right now I only have 3 buttons in here and I have disabled the settings. The setting is going to be a really complicated GUI that we add. It will be similar to those who know where the mod option GUI is, which usually has a list of mods and you can edit with. In 1.7 it's not a very detailed GUI and I'm not even sure it actually works. But you can hit this button. We'll actually add a way to rebind it. You can get access to the permission system. For those who remember that the global permission system was here, it'll be there. And you can access your books. What we're going to end up doing with the rest of this GUI is we're going to actually end up adding buttons here that will show you quick access. So say you were accessing 3 or 4 books constantly, then those books will show up here. You'll also be able to favorite things. And say you were accessing 3 or 4 lists constantly, those will show up as here as well. We'll probably also end up with the bottom of the screen down here, adding a notification system to tell you that, hey, the server you're currently on has changed a lot of the configs. Here are the config changes that have been made, so that way you're informed of what changes have been made and you're not surprised when all of a sudden a machine you went to go build is disabled. But with the books, you can open up this, and right now I've got it injected with test data, and I still haven't yet to finish the rendering. But this will show up with a list of books. We are planning on putting icons for the books to make them look really, really nice. Very likely how this page will end up looking is if I can go to our website right now, which is www.builtbroken.com, is that this will be very similar to our add-on page where we have nice big icons where you can clearly see what's going on. So this page will be very similar to that, so you'll have a nice big icon. This, by the way, also resizes with the page and should end up adding a scroll bar at some point to let you scroll up and down. There will be a favorite list at the top so you can favorite books that you're constantly accessing. And the way we do plan to handle books is that it will not be a book per mod. You will actually end up having books per category. So you may have a book dedicated entirely just to sentry guns, entirely just to gun building, entirely just to setting up foundries. It'll be pretty much handled just like a real book in real life will be handled. So you'll have a book entirely dedicated to something. We may even put basic physics in here and mathematics for those who are not familiar with certain topics. So if we're talking about trigonometry and how to calculate where a third point is given 2 existing points, and you know that the time between the points are, which is a feature that's going to be implemented in ICBM to track missile launch positions, is you'll actually be able to set up a radar station and go, okay, radar station A saw the missile at 13 seconds and radar station B saw the missile at 14 seconds, and then you can triangulate where the missile came from based on that data. But with this, you can click the actual book, and what this will do, and of course I do have to still fix things for this because you can see the buttons all messed up. So this will open up the actual book, and it should list all the chapters that you have available to you. It will give a description. Right now I've got random text in here to test all the rendering and everything else. So it'll actually give you a description for the book itself to say like, hey, this will be the book for sentry guns, and it'll list all the information about how to set up your sentry guns, build the sentry guns, interact with them, and everything else. With this as well, we're probably going to implement features similar to NEI and JEI by having a recipe book in the bottom of this that will show you all the recipes per mod, and what we'll do is it'll be called the recipe book or the workman's guide to crafting or something. We'll come up with an inventive way to do the lore. And in there'll be a chapter per mod, and then we'll try to break the sections up in a very intelligent way to go like, okay, here's all the stairs or something. That will be used as a backup in case you don't have any installed. But you click here and it'll go all the chapters. Right now we only have 1 chapter in here. It will then open up all the sections for you, and we will add quick reference to this. So what we'll end up probably doing is adding a table of contents here where not only will you see the chapters, so it'll go chapter 1, but it'll go all the sections below it, so then you can scroll down and find stuff a lot quicker. Right now this is being done just because it's the quickest way to do it. So you'll go chapter, then section. Each section will have a description. So to be like, hey, this is the section on how to set your sentry up, or this is the section on how your sentry targets AIs, and it'll explain how to do that. You'll click in here and then it'll go, here's all the pages. So once again, there's a description for the section. This will actually be the description for the chapter. So you click in here and give you all the pages, and each page will be a different thing. So a page is going to be treated just like, as I mentioned, like a web page. It's going to contain all the content for that page, and it will be pretty much handled like our wiki. For those who actually don't know how to get to the wiki because we kind of disabled the path to it, it'll be like, I think you go to ICBM and you click, this is how you get to the oldest site, by the way. So it'll be like this. You have a wiki page, and unfortunately the wiki is not loading properly. I don't think we've ever fixed it. That's the reason why I rushed to get the guidebook up, as the wiki is broken. But you'll click a page, and then it'll actually get in here, and it looks like I actually messed up and misplaced the page link with the open section link. But what will happen is that when you open a page, it'll display all the information, it'll include images. We do want to try to embed YouTube videos at some point. This will be something that won't happen right away, this will be down the road. The first version we end up releasing will end up only having header tags, so it'll have a header tag like the description here, and then we'll have paragraph tags to put paragraphs here. We'll probably also sneak images in there because images are not too hard to do, and that'll be about the gist of it. We'll probably also look into a way to maybe ship the wiki separately, because the books separately, because the books may end up being a couple megabytes in size, so we don't want to bulk up the files right now. Our mods are under 10 megabytes a piece usually, so we don't want to end up making that file size too ridiculously, but we'll look into it. We'll probably build these out with text-based stuff to start with, and then we'll add ways to generate images for, say, recipes and stuff, so you can see the recipes in real time. And we'll find a way to show the original recipe and the modified recipe in addition, so that way you'll know what the original recipe looked like, and you'll know what the mod pack you're in actually change it over to. But that's all I want to do for this news update, and I'll come back with another video showing off individual features and actually talking about some of these topics in a little bit more depth at a later date.